She was lost in thought about her daughter when a speeding Danfo bus hit her. Veronica's body slammed onto the asphalt, blood spilling as bystanders screamed. At the hospital, doctors fought to save her life, while the question hung in the air, who will pay for her surgery? Sit tight. Let me tell you a touching and heartbreaking story. Watch till the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The morning sun cast long shadows across the modest apartment in Surulere, Lagos, as Daniel Adebayo carefully pressed his only good shirt. The iron was old and temperamental, much like everything else in their small home, but Daniel had learned to coax life from broken things. It was a skill he'd need more than he knew. In the bedroom, his wife Veronica sat before a cracked mirror, applying makeup with the precision of an artist. Even in their humble circumstances, she remained breathtakingly beautiful, the kind of woman who turned heads on busy Lagos streets. Her skin was smooth as polished mahogany, and her eyes held depths that had once promised Daniel forever. "Daddy, Daddy!" 7-year-old Joy burst through the door, her school uniform slightly rumpled but her smile radiant. She wrapped her small arms around Daniel's waist, and he felt that familiar surge of love that made every struggle worthwhile. "Good morning, my little star," Daniel said, lifting her up and spinning her around. Joy giggled, her laughter like music in the small apartment. Veronica watched this display with thinly veiled irritation. "Daniel, put her down. She'll wrinkle her uniform, and I don't have time to iron it again." But Daniel barely heard her. In Joy's eyes, he saw his own determination reflected back, a fierce intelligence that reminded him why he worked 16-hour days, why he walked to save bus fare, why he counted every naira twice before spending it. As a junior civil servant in the Ministry of Education, Daniel earned barely enough to keep them afloat. But he believed in honest work, in dignity found in service, in building something lasting brick by brick. Every morning, he left their apartment with hope in his heart and returned each evening ready to give his family whatever they needed. "Papa, will you help me with my arithmetic homework tonight?" Joy asked as he prepared her breakfast. "Of course, my dear. We'll solve every problem together." From the corner, Veronica snorted. "Problems? That's all we have in this house." Daniel's hand paused over the bread he was buttering for Joy's lunch. He'd grown accustomed to Veronica's complaints, but they still stung. When they'd first met at a friend's wedding 5 years ago, she'd seemed to love his gentle nature, his steady reliability. Now those same qualities felt like chains around her ankles. That afternoon, while Daniel was at work and Joy was at school, Veronica sat in their small parlor scrolling through Facebook on the old phone Daniel had managed to buy her for Christmas. The internet connection was slow and frustrating, much like everything else in her life, but she persevered. Social media was her window to a world of possibilities she felt constantly denied. Then she saw them, photos from Kate and Vanessa's latest shopping spree. Designer handbags that cost more than Daniel made in 6 months. Gold jewelry that caught the light like captured stars. Cars that gleamed like promises of freedom. Kate and Vanessa had been her friends since secondary school. While Veronica had chosen marriage, believing Daniel's quiet confidence meant he had hidden wealth, they had chosen a different path. They worked the upscale hotels and clubs of Victoria Island, charming wealthy men with their beauty and wit. To Veronica's eyes, they had everything she lacked. Her phone buzzed with a message from Kate. "Girl, you need to see this new apartment. 3 bedrooms in Lekki. The man I'm seeing is so generous." Veronica stared at the photos Kate sent. Marble floors, a kitchen that looked like something from a magazine, a view of the lagoon that stretched to the horizon. She looked around her own parlor with its mismatched furniture and peeling paint, and something bitter rose in her throat. When Daniel returned home that evening, tired but smiling, Veronica barely looked up from her phone. "Good evening, my love," he said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "How was your day?" She shrugged. "The same. Boring. Poor." Daniel winced but said nothing. He'd learned that arguing only made things worse. Instead, he focused on Joy, who came running to show him her test results, a perfect score in English and another in mathematics. "Look, Papa. Mrs. Adeniran says I'm the smartest in my class." Daniel's face lit up like Christmas morning. "That's wonderful, Joy. We must celebrate. What would you like for dinner?" "Rice and stew." Joy clapped her hands. "Rice and stew it is," Daniel laughed, heading to the kitchen. Veronica watched this exchange with growing resentment. How could they be so happy with so little? Didn't they understand what they were missing? What she was missing? As weeks passed, Veronica's discontent grew like a cancer. Every morning, Daniel would wake up singing old hymns under his breath as he prepared for work. Every evening, he would return with small gifts, a piece of candy for Joy, a flower picked from the roadside for Veronica. His contentment infuriated her. "Daniel," she said one evening as he counted out his salary on their small dining table, carefully allocating money for rent, food, Joy's school fees, and transport. "I need new clothes. All my dresses are worn out." Daniel looked up, concerned. "Of course, my dear. Let me see what we can manage after Joy's school fees." "No," Veronica interrupted. "I need them now. Kate and Vanessa are having a party next week, and I can't show up looking like a poor church mouse. But Joy's fees are due tomorrow, and if we don't pay—" "Joy, Joy, Joy!" Veronica exploded. "Everything is about Joy. What about me? What about my needs? I'm tired of wearing the same 3 dresses while your precious daughter gets new school supplies every month." Joy, who had been reading quietly in the corner, looked up with wide, hurt eyes. Daniel's jaw tightened. He could accept criticism of himself, but not of his daughter. "Joy's education is our priority," he said quietly. "It's her future we're building. What about my future?" Veronica's voice rose. "I'm 28 years old, Daniel. I'm supposed to be living, not just surviving." That night, after Joy had fallen asleep, Veronica lay awake staring at the ceiling. Through the thin walls, she could hear the neighbor's generator humming. They could afford fuel while she and Daniel sat in darkness to save money on electricity. She picked up her phone and scrolled through Kate's latest posts. A video from a nightclub in Lagos Island. Designer shoes. A wristwatch that probably cost more than their rent. And there was Kate, radiant and carefree, dancing without a worry in the world. Before she could stop herself, Veronica was dialing Kate's number. "Kate. It's Vero. Are you awake? Girl. Of course. We just got back from Quillox. You should have been there. So many rich men, and they were buying champagne like it was water. Why don't you ever come out with us?" Veronica glanced at Daniel's sleeping form beside her. Even in sleep, his face held that same peaceful contentment that both attracted and repelled her. "You know why. I'm married." Kate laughed. "Married to what? Poverty? Girl, open your eyes. Life is short, and you're wasting yours." After hanging up, Veronica couldn't sleep. Kate's words echoed in her mind. Life is short, and you're wasting yours. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. Daniel's salary was late, a common occurrence in government work, and they were down to their last few naira. Joy needed a new school textbook, and Daniel was doing everything he could to find the money, even asking his colleagues for small loans. Meanwhile, Veronica saw Vanessa's latest Facebook post, a photo from Dubai, taken from the window of a 5-star hotel. The caption read, "When Bay surprises you with a weekend getaway. Life is good. #blessed Dubai #living my best life." Something snapped inside Veronica. She stared at the photo for a long time, then at her own reflection in the black phone screen. Tired eyes, worry lines, the face of someone slowly disappearing into a life of struggle. She called Kate. "I want to meet you and Vanessa," she said without preamble. "Today." 2 hours later, Veronica sat in an upscale cafe in Victoria Island, feeling underdressed despite her best efforts. Kate and Vanessa looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Designer everything, perfect makeup, an aura of confidence that money could buy. "So you finally came to your senses," Vanessa said, stirring her overpriced latte. "We've been waiting for this day." "I don't know," Veronica said uncertainly. "Daniel is a good man." "And Joy." "Daniel is a good man who will keep you poor forever," Kate interrupted. "And Joy." "Honey, you had her when you were barely out of your teens. You've given up enough of your life already." They painted a picture of freedom that made Veronica's head spin. Late nights at expensive clubs. Wealthy men who treated women like queens. Money that flowed like water. Travel, luxury, excitement, everything her current life lacked. "It's not about love," Vanessa explained. "These men know what they want, we know what we want. Everyone gets what they need." "But I don't know how." "We'll teach you everything," Kate assured her. "What to wear, how to act, where to go. Within a month, you'll be making more money than Daniel makes in a year." When Veronica returned home that evening, she found Daniel and Joy sitting at their small table, sharing a simple meal of bread and groundnut stew. They looked up at her with such genuine love and welcome that guilt twisted in her stomach. "Mama, where did you go?" Joy asked. "Papa and I waited for you for dinner." "I was out with friends," Veronica said curtly, unable to meet their eyes. That night, she lay awake planning her escape from what she now saw as a prison of poverty and unfulfilled dreams. The transformation didn't happen overnight. At first, Veronica just went out occasionally, shopping with friends, she told Daniel, though she never came back with any purchases he could see. Her phone was always buzzing with messages now, and she guarded it jealously. Daniel noticed the changes but chose to interpret them generously. Perhaps Veronica just needed time with friends. Perhaps she was feeling cooped up. He tried to be understanding, taking on even more of the household duties without complaint. "Mama seems sad," Joy observed one evening as Daniel helped her with homework. Daniel's pencil paused over the arithmetic problem they were solving. "Sometimes adults go through difficult times, just like children do. We just need to be patient and loving." "Should I draw her a picture? Pictures always make me happy when I'm sad." Daniel's heart clenched with love for his daughter's pure heart. "That's a beautiful idea, Joy. I think Mama would love that." But when Joy presented her drawing, a crayon masterpiece showing their family holding hands under a rainbow, Veronica barely glanced at it. "Very nice, dear," she said absently, focused on her phone. "Put it on the refrigerator." Joy's face fell, but Daniel quickly swooped in. "This is the most beautiful rainbow I've ever seen. And look at how you drew our family, so happy together. This definitely deserves a place of honor." As Daniel made a show of carefully positioning the drawing on the refrigerator, Joy beamed. But Veronica had already left the room. The real change came gradually. Veronica started staying out later, claiming she was helping Kate with various errands. Her wardrobe began to include pieces that Daniel was certain they couldn't afford, a new blouse here, jewelry there. When he asked about it, she was vague. "Kate lent it to me," or "Vanessa didn't want it anymore." Then came the night she didn't come home at all. Daniel sat up until dawn, alternating between worry and hurt. When Joy woke up asking for Mama, he had to fabricate a story about Veronica helping a sick friend. But when Veronica finally returned at noon the next day, she offered no explanation, no apology, just a cold stare that dared him to question her. "Where were you?" he asked quietly, while Joy was outside playing. "Out," Veronica replied, heading to the bedroom. "Veronica, please. Talk to me. What's happening to us?" She turned to face him, and for a moment, Daniel saw something that looked like the woman he'd fallen in love with. But then her expression hardened again. "Nothing's happening to us, Daniel. This is us. This is all we'll ever be. And I'm tired of it." The end came on a Tuesday evening in March. Daniel had just returned from work, exhausted but carrying a small bag of Joy's favorite chin-chin as a surprise. Joy ran to greet him as always, but something in her demeanor was different, subdued, worried. "Papa," she whispered, "Mama packed a bag. A big one." Daniel's blood ran cold. He found Veronica in their bedroom, methodically folding clothes into a suitcase he'd never seen before, expensive-looking, with gold-colored clasps that caught the light. "Going somewhere?" he asked, though his heart already knew the answer. Veronica didn't look up. "I'm leaving, Daniel." The words hung in the air between them like a death sentence. Daniel sat heavily on the edge of the bed they'd shared for 8 years. "For how long?" "For good." "But why? What did I do wrong? Tell me, and I'll fix it." Now she did look at him, and the coldness in her eyes was worse than any anger could have been. "You can't fix being poor, Daniel. You can't fix being boring. You can't fix being ordinary. We have a daughter, Veronica. Joy needs her mother. Joy has you. You're better at being a parent anyway." She zipped the suitcase closed with a finality that echoed through Daniel's chest. "I found someone who can give me the life I deserve." "What about the life we built together?" Veronica looked around their modest bedroom, at the family photos on the dresser, at Joy's artwork taped to the walls, at the wedding picture where they both looked so young and full of hope. This isn't a life, Daniel. It's just existing. As she wheeled her suitcase toward the door, Joy appeared in the hallway. She looked so small standing there, still in her school uniform, trying to understand why Mama was leaving with a big bag. "Mama, where are you going?" Veronica hesitated for just a moment. Then she knelt down and touched Joy's face with a gentleness that reminded Daniel why he'd loved her. "Mama has to go away for a while, baby. When are you coming back?" The pause stretched too long. "I don't know." Joy's lip began to tremble. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong." Veronica's voice cracked slightly. "You be good for Papa, okay?" She stood up quickly, avoiding Daniel's eyes, and walked out the door. They heard her heels clicking down the hallway, then the sound of a car engine starting outside. A car Daniel didn't recognize. Joy ran to the window and pressed her face against the glass, watching as a black SUV drove away with her mother inside. When she turned back to Daniel, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Is Mama coming back for dinner?" Daniel knelt and gathered his daughter into his arms, his own heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. But Joy needed him to be strong, so he found strength he didn't know he possessed. "I don't think so, sweetheart. But we still have each other, don't we?" Joy nodded against his shoulder. "Will you help me with my homework?" "Always," Daniel whispered. "Always." The weeks that followed were the darkest of Daniel's life. He functioned like a man underwater, going through the motions of living while fighting to breathe. Every morning, he woke up hoping the nightmare had ended, only to find Veronica's side of the bed still empty. But life with a 7-year-old doesn't allow for extended wallowing. Joy needed breakfast, help getting ready for school, lunch money, homework assistance, bedtime stories. She needed normalcy in a world that had suddenly tilted off its axis. At first, Joy asked about Mama every day. When was she coming home? Could they call her? Had she forgotten about them? Each question was a knife to Daniel's heart, but he answered with patience and love. "Sometimes adults make choices that are hard to understand," he would say. "But that doesn't mean Mama doesn't love you. And Papa will always be here." Gradually, Joy stopped asking. She seemed to understand, with the resilience children possess, that their family was different now. Just her and Papa. And that had to be enough. Daniel threw himself into being both parents. He learned to braid Joy's hair, badly at first, then with increasing skill. He figured out how to pack nutritious lunches despite their tight budget. He attended every school event, every parent-teacher conference, every small milestone that made up a childhood. "Your daughter is exceptional," Mrs. Adeniran, Joy's teacher, told him during one such conference. "Not just academically, though she's certainly brilliant, but emotionally. She's mature beyond her years, kind to her classmates, always ready to help others." "You're doing something very right, Mr. Adebayo." Daniel felt a flush of pride that was immediately followed by a stab of sadness. Veronica should be here to share this moment. She should know how amazing their daughter was becoming. He tried calling Veronica several times in those first weeks, but the number was always busy or went straight to voicemail. When he finally did get through, she was curt and cold. "What do you want, Daniel?" "I want to know you're safe. I want to know if you need anything. I want to know if you're coming home." "I'm fine. I don't need anything from you. And no, I'm not coming home." "What about Joy? She misses you." There was a long pause. "Joy will be better off without me. You both will." The line went dead, and when Daniel tried calling back, he discovered she'd blocked his number. As months passed, Daniel and Joy developed new routines, new traditions, new ways of being happy together. Saturday mornings became special. They would walk to the local market together, Joy helping Daniel select the best vegetables while practicing her arithmetic by calculating prices. Sunday afternoons were for homework and stories, Daniel reading aloud while Joy snuggled against his side. Money was tighter than ever with only one income, but they managed. Daniel took on extra work when he could find it, tutoring neighborhood children in mathematics, helping local business owners with their bookkeeping in the evenings. Every extra naira went toward Joy's education and their modest savings account. "Papa, why do you work so much?" Joy asked one evening, looking up from her homework as Daniel balanced ledgers at their kitchen table. "So that you can have every opportunity to become whatever you dream of being," Daniel replied. "What do you dream of being, my star?" Joy considered this seriously. "I want to help people. Maybe be a doctor, so I can make sick people better." Daniel's heart swelled with pride. "That's a beautiful dream. And I believe you can do it. Even if we don't have a lot of money. Especially because we don't have a lot of money. You understand what it means to work hard for something valuable. That will make you a better doctor than someone who had everything handed to them." Meanwhile, across the city, Veronica was living a different kind of life. The businessman who had whisked her away from her family was indeed wealthy. Wealthy enough to rent her a small apartment in Surulere, to buy her clothes and jewelry, to take her to expensive restaurants and clubs. In return, she provided companionship, beauty, and the illusion of adoration. At first, the novelty of luxury was intoxicating. She had more money in her purse than Daniel made in a month. Her wardrobe rivaled those of the society women she'd envied. She ate at restaurants she'd only seen in magazines. But the excitement faded faster than she'd expected. The businessman, Chief Oakley, was married, older, and treated her more like a beautiful possession than a person. Their relationship was transactional, and both parties knew it. When he was busy with his wife or other business, Veronica found herself alone in her apartment, surrounded by expensive things but empty of purpose. She tried not to think about Daniel and Joy, but they crept into her thoughts at unexpected moments. When she saw a child Joy's age at the mall. When she passed a father and daughter reading together at a cafe. When she lay awake at night in her comfortable but lonely bed. Kate and Vanessa assured her that this was normal, that she just needed to adjust to her new life. But as weeks turned to months, the adjustment never quite came. 2 years passed. Joy, now 9, had blossomed into a remarkable child, confident, compassionate, and academically gifted. Her teachers consistently praised her performance, and she had been selected to represent her school in several academic competitions. "Papa, I won!" Joy burst through their apartment door one afternoon, waving a certificate in the air. "First place in the state mathematics competition." Daniel dropped the papers he was grading and swept Joy into his arms, spinning her around their small parlor. "My brilliant daughter! I am so proud of you." "The prize is a full scholarship to secondary school," Joy continued breathlessly. "A good secondary school, Papa." "St. Monica's." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. St. Monica's was one of the best schools in Lagos. Expensive, prestigious, exactly the kind of education he dreamed of giving Joy but never thought he could afford. "This changes everything," he whispered, holding her close. "Everything." That evening, they celebrated with a special dinner, rice and chicken, a luxury they rarely afforded. As Joy chattered excitedly about her competition, about her dreams for the future, Daniel felt a profound sense of completeness. This was what mattered. This was success, not money or status, but raising a child who could conquer the world through her own merit and determination. Meanwhile, Veronica's world was beginning to crumble. Chief Oakley had grown tired of her, as he grew tired of all his mistresses eventually. The apartment lease was in his name, the car was registered to his company, the credit cards were linked to his accounts. When he decided he wanted someone younger, someone more grateful for his attentions, Veronica found herself with very little warning and even less recourse. "You understand, Vero," he said with the casual brutality of a man accustomed to discarding people. "It's been fun, but I need a change. I'll give you 2 weeks to find somewhere else to live." 2 weeks. After 2 years of playing the role of devoted mistress, of pretending to find his stories fascinating and his touch welcome, she was given 2 weeks' notice like a domestic servant. Kate and Vanessa, her supposed friends, were unsympathetic. They had their own arrangements to maintain, their own wealthy men to keep happy. There was no room in their lives for a fallen comrade. "You should have been smarter," Vanessa said with a shrug. "Never put all your eggs in one basket. I always have at least 2 or 3 men interested." "And you should have saved money," Kate added. "I don't understand how you could live that lifestyle for 2 years and not put anything aside." But Veronica had been too intoxicated by the illusion of wealth to think practically. She'd spent everything as quickly as it came, believing the golden lifestyle would last forever. Within a month, Veronica found herself homeless. The small savings she'd managed to scrape together ran out quickly. Lagos was an expensive city, especially for someone accustomed to having bills paid by others. She moved from one cheap hotel to another, each one shabbier than the last, watching her money disappear like water in the sand. She tried to contact Chief Oakley, swallowing her pride to beg for more time, for help, for anything. But his phone went straight to voicemail, and when she showed up at places she knew he frequented, security guards turned her away. She had become invisible to him, erased as thoroughly as if she had never existed. The final humiliation came when she was thrown out of a 5-star hotel for soliciting. The security guards were rough, their treatment making it clear they knew exactly what she was and how little she mattered. Standing on the street outside, her makeup smeared and her dignity in tatters, Veronica finally understood the true cost of the choices she'd made. She thought of Daniel's gentle hands, of Joy's innocent laughter, of the modest apartment that had once felt like a prison but now seemed like a lost paradise. She still had their old phone number memorized. She'd never been able to bring herself to delete it entirely. With shaking hands, she dialed. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." Of course. It had been 2 years. They would have moved, changed numbers, built a new life. A life without her. For the first time since leaving her family, Veronica allowed herself to fully feel the magnitude of her loss. She had traded everything real for something false, everyone who loved her for people who used her, a future with meaning for a present of empty pleasure. And now she had nothing. The next 6 months were a blur of survival. Veronica moved from one slum to another. The expensive clothes Chief Oakley had bought her were sold piece by piece. The jewelry went to pawnshops. Eventually, she was left with nothing but the most basic necessities and a growing understanding of just how far she had fallen. She slept in different places each night, sometimes in cheap hostels, sometimes in all-night restaurants, sometimes on the streets when she had no other choice. Indeed, Joy was more than thriving. Now in her final year at St. Monica's Secondary School, she had become everything Daniel had dreamed she could be. Her academic excellence had earned her recognition throughout Lagos State. Universities were already reaching out, offering scholarships for a girl who had achieved the highest scores in mathematics and sciences that many schools had ever seen. "Papa, I've made a decision about my future," Joy announced one evening as they shared their simple dinner. Daniel looked up expectantly. His daughter had grown into a poised, thoughtful teenager who approached every decision with the same methodical care she applied to her studies. "I want to study medicine. I want to become a surgeon." Daniel's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Medicine? That's a very demanding field, Joy. And expensive. I know. But I've been thinking about it for years. Remember when I was little, and I said I wanted to help people? Well, surgeons help people in the most direct way possible. They save lives." She pulled out a notebook where she'd been researching programs and scholarships. "I've already applied to several universities. The University of Lagos has offered me a full scholarship if I maintain my grades. And Papa—" She looked up at him with eyes bright with determination. "I won't let you down. I promise I'll work harder than anyone." Daniel reached across the table and took his daughter's hand. "Joy, you could never let me down. You are my greatest achievement, my greatest joy. If you want to be a surgeon, then we'll find a way to make it happen." That night, as Daniel lay in bed, he thought about Veronica and wondered if she ever thought about what Joy was becoming. Their daughter was going to be a doctor, a surgeon, no less. She was going to save lives, heal the sick, make a real difference in the world. And she was going to do it through her own intelligence, determination, and hard work. It was everything he had hoped for when he first held her as a baby, everything he had worked toward during all those difficult years. On a rainy Tuesday morning in March, Veronica was walking along a busy road in Mushin, trying to get to a temporary job cleaning an office building. She was thinking about Joy, wondering if her daughter even remembered her, whether she was happy, if Daniel had told her the truth about why her mother left. She was so lost in thought that she didn't notice the Danfo bus speeding through the intersection. The driver, running late and frustrated with traffic, didn't see the woman step into the road until it was too late. The impact threw Veronica several meters. She hit the asphalt hard, her head striking the curb with a sickening crack. Blood pooled around her as concerned bystanders gathered, but the bus didn't stop. Hit-and-run accidents were unfortunately. "Call an ambulance," someone shouted. "Is she breathing? There's so much blood." A Good Samaritan used their phone to call for emergency services, and within 30 minutes, Veronica was being rushed to Lagos General Hospital. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow, her pulse weak. The medical team that received her worked frantically to stabilize her condition. "Severe head trauma," the emergency physician reported. "Possible internal bleeding. She needs surgery immediately." "Who's paying for this?" The administrator asked the question that determined life and death in too many Nigerian hospitals. The Good Samaritan who had called for help had already left. Veronica carried no identification, no wallet, no emergency contacts. She was alone in the most literal sense possible. "Put her in the ward for now," the physician said reluctantly. "But if no one comes forward to cover the costs?" It was left unsaid. Everyone knew what happened to patients without money or family. They received basic care until they either got better on their own or didn't. Surgery, expensive, resource-intensive surgery, was for people who could pay. Dr. Joy Adebayo, now 26 and one of the most promising young surgeons in Lagos, was finishing her shift when the emergency case came in. She had just completed a complex operation on a traffic accident victim and was looking forward to going home to her father, who still waited up for her after her longest days. In the 5 years since graduating medical school with highest honors, Joy had built a reputation for both surgical skill and compassion. She was known for taking cases other doctors considered too risky, for working with patients regardless of their ability to pay, for treating every person who came through the hospital doors with dignity and respect. "Dr. Adebayo," the head nurse called as Joy was changing out of her scrubs. "We have an emergency case. Hit-and-run victim, severe head trauma. She needs surgery, but no one to pay for it," Joy finished. It was a story she heard too often. "What's her condition?" "Critical. Without intervention, she probably won't make it through the night." Joy didn't hesitate. "Prep her for surgery. I'll take the case. Doctor, the administration will deal with me later. Right now, I have a patient who needs help." She scrubbed in and entered the operating theater where an unconscious woman lay on the table. The patient looked to be in her late 30s, with features that might have been beautiful before injury and hardship had marked them. Something about her seemed familiar, but Joy was focused entirely on the medical challenge before her. The surgery took 6 hours. Joy worked with the intense concentration that had made her famous among her colleagues, carefully repairing damaged blood vessels, relieving pressure on the brain, cleaning and stitching wounds that could have been fatal. Her team worked in perfect synchronization, trusting her judgment completely. When it was over, Joy was exhausted but cautiously optimistic. She should make a full recovery, she told the nurses. "Keep monitoring her vitals, and call me if there are any changes." Veronica woke up 3 days later to the sound of machines beeping and the sensation of bandages wrapped around her head. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was or what had happened. Then the pain hit, not just physical pain, but the crushing memory of her circumstances. She was in a hospital. That meant bills she couldn't pay, debt she couldn't escape, questions she couldn't answer. She tried to sit up, but dizziness forced her back down. "Take it easy," a gentle voice said. "You've been through major surgery." Veronica turned toward the voice and saw a nurse checking her chart, a kind-faced woman who seemed genuinely concerned for her welfare. I can't pay," Veronica whispered, the words scraping her throat raw. "I don't have insurance. I don't have anything." The nurse's expression softened. "Don't worry about that now. Dr. Adebayo took your case personally. She said your life was more important than paperwork." "Dr. Adebayo?" Something stirred in Veronica's memory, a name that felt familiar, though she couldn't place why. "She's the surgeon who operated on you. Brilliant young woman. You're lucky she was on duty that night. Many doctors would have turned your case away." Over the next few days, as Veronica slowly recovered, she heard more about the mysterious Dr. Adebayo. The nurses spoke of her with reverence, how she had stayed late to perform the surgery, how she checked on charity cases personally, how she had a reputation for taking on patients others had given up on. "She lost her mother when she was young," one nurse mentioned during a routine check. Maybe that's why she fights so hard for patients who have no one else. Veronica's heart clenched at those words. She thought of Joy, wondered what story Daniel had told their daughter about why her mother had left. Did Joy even remember her? Did she care? On the 5th day, Dr. Adebayo finally came to check on her patient personally. Veronica was dozing when she heard footsteps and a familiar voice speaking to the nurse. "How is our Jane Doe doing? Any signs of memory returning?" "She's been asking about you, doctor. Wants to thank the person who saved her life." Veronica opened her eyes as the conversation drew closer to her bed. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. "Good morning," Joy said professionally, reaching for Veronica's chart. "I'm Dr. Adebayo. How are you feeling today?" Veronica stared in shock. This poised, accomplished woman was her daughter. Her baby girl, grown into everything Veronica had never imagined she could become. Veronica's voice failed her completely. Joy looked at her patient with concern. "Are you experiencing pain? Difficulty speaking? That can be normal after head trauma, but I want to make sure." "Joy," Veronica whispered. "Mama." The word came out as barely a breath. For a long moment, mother and daughter stared at each other across the chasm of 15 lost years. Joy, the successful surgeon who saved lives daily. Veronica, the broken woman who had thrown away everything that mattered for the illusion of an easier life. You're a doctor," Veronica said, tears streaming down her face. "You became a doctor." Joy's professional composure cracked slightly. "Yes. I became a surgeon." "Your father, is Daniel?" "Papa is fine. He's proud of me. He worked 3 jobs to put me through university." Joy's voice was steady, but Veronica could hear the pain underneath. "He never remarried. Never stopped believing in the importance of family." The accusation in those words was gentle but unmistakable. While Veronica had been chasing false dreams, Daniel had been raising their daughter into an extraordinary woman. "I need to call him," Joy said suddenly, her professional mask slipping entirely. "Papa needs to know." "No," Veronica said quickly. "Please. Not yet." Joy paused, her hand already reaching for her phone. Why not? How could Veronica explain? How could she tell her daughter that she was ashamed? That 15 years of poor choices had led her to this moment. Homeless, friendless, lying in a hospital bed as a charity case while the daughter she abandoned had become everything she herself had dreamed of being? I'm not the same person who left," Veronica said finally. "I don't deserve to disrupt your lives again." Joy studied her mother's face, the premature aging, the wear of hard living, the defeat in eyes that had once held such determination to escape poverty. "What happened to you?" Joy asked quietly. So Veronica told her. Haltingly at first, then with growing honesty, she shared the story of the last 15 years. The businessman who had promised her everything and given her nothing lasting. The friends who had used and abandoned her. The slow descent from luxury to poverty, from security to desperation. Joy listened without judgment, her medical training allowing her to hear the story as a case study in poor choices and their consequences. But underneath the professional detachment, the daughter in her was struggling with 15 years of abandonment and hurt. "I used to wonder," Joy said when Veronica finished, "if it was my fault. If I had done something to make you leave." "No." Veronica's voice was fierce with certainty. "Never. You were perfect, Joy. You were always perfect. It was me, my selfishness, my foolishness. I thought I deserved more than what we had, but I was too stupid to see that what we had was everything." "Papa never spoke badly of you," Joy continued. "Even when I asked why you left, he would just say that sometimes adults make choices that are hard to understand, but that didn't mean you didn't love me." The generosity of that, Daniel protecting Veronica's memory even after she had destroyed their family, hit Veronica like a physical blow. "He's a better person than I ever was," she whispered. "Yes," Joy agreed simply. "He is." They sat in silence for a few minutes, the weight of lost years heavy between them. "I became a surgeon because I wanted to help people," Joy said finally. "But also because I wanted to prove that I could succeed despite everything. I wanted to show that losing you hadn't broken us." It didn't, Veronica said with fierce pride. Look at you. You're magnificent. Joy smiled sadly. I'm what Papa made me. His love, his sacrifice, his example, that's what shaped me. Veronica's physical recovery took another month. When she was finally discharged, she faced the same problem that had plagued her before the accident. She had nowhere to go, no money, no prospects. But this time, she wasn't alone. You can stay with me, Joy said as they discussed discharge plans. I have a small apartment, but there's a couch. I can't ask that of you. You're not asking. I'm offering. It was a tentative arrangement at first. Veronica slept on Joy's couch and tried to stay out of the way while her daughter worked her demanding schedule at the hospital. But gradually, they found a rhythm. Veronica took over the household tasks, cooking, cleaning, shopping. It was strange, serving the daughter who had once been her responsibility, but it felt right somehow. She was contributing, being useful, earning her place rather than simply taking it. Daniel visited regularly. At first, the encounters were stilted, awkward, too much history, too much hurt for easy conversation. But slowly, they began to rebuild something. Not the marriage they'd once had, too much had happened for that, but perhaps a friendship based on their shared love for Joy and their shared history as a family. I never stopped loving you, Daniel told her one evening as they sat in Joy's small living room, watching their daughter study for an important medical conference. Even after everything I did. Love doesn't work that way. At least, mine doesn't. I was angry, hurt, disappointed. But the love never went away. Veronica took his hand, still strong, still gentle, still willing to offer comfort even to the woman who had broken his heart. I never stopped loving you either, she admitted. I just forgot for a while that love was more important than anything else. If you were Joy, would you forgive her? And if you were Daniel, would you accept her back as your wife? Share your opinion in the comments section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more touching stories. Thank you.